It's interesting how you talk about the norm. You hear like, was it Tim McGraw's song talking about his father dying, right? And they talk about all the sensational things they would like to do. They want to write a bull. They wanted, but this is more about doing ordinary things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think like, if it was my father who's still alive or whatever, but I just want to be in the field, right? Or a normal day.
Yeah.
Well, if you,
I
I'm
really
curious
think
if
that's
any of you
key.
have lost somebody like that. What would you, whether it's a parent or a child or brother or uncle or whatever, what would you do during that day? If you got 24 hours, a morning, noon, and a night.
Okay, mine was, I wasn't even for 24 hours. It would be, my mom died 8 years ago this Christmas, and I wasn't there when she died. And I had told her beforehand that I would be. I had told her I'd be holding her hand when she died. And I had been there the 2 nights before, stayed the night she was in hospice, and we knew that she was very close to death. But Christmas Day, I had people over for dinner with the idea that, you know, I'll go after. And I didn't. And just those couple hours, I would give anything to be able to live that again.
So you'd want to have her come back so you could say goodbye to her.
So that I could say goodbye and hold her hand to help her. I'd made that promise. And I know it's just totally irrational to feel so bad about it.
It's not irrational at all. It's about as normal as it gets.
It's something you just never get over. And I had an experience, which you were saying about someone that has come back. I had had an argument with my dad at one point, real staunch Catholics. And I don't even know if you remember this. It was on a Sunday, and we had 4 little girls, taken them over there. And he asked me something about Mass that day, and we hadn't gone. And I made the mistake of telling him that we hadn't gone. Boy, I wish I'd lied then. But anyhow, of course, he took it very strongly. And I know he didn't mean this. He had a temper. And he said something to the effect that you're a bad mother. And, oh, did that ever affect me? And after he died, one night I dreamt that he was there consoling me and telling me it was all right. And that was just as real as can be.
Wow.
That was my experience.
Yeah.
It was happening.
Yeah, well, so maybe you had your day in a sort of form.
That could be.
But that's such a common story. The people saying, why didn't, I never got to, explain that sentence that I didn't mean it that way, or I never got to ask my parent, did you really mean when you said that? Just tell me that you didn't mean it. Just tell me that it's what I thought it was, that it was just anger, Just little things like that. And that's why I suppose when people would have another day with somebody, like you said, the Tim McGraw song, first it's like, wow, the wonderful, we just enjoy the world. We'd be in Paris for lunch and in London for dinner. And you wouldn't. You just try to eat the food that you used to eat, and in your old house in the kitchen, the simple little game of pinochle, or walk down the street, or ride to the mall, or whatever it is, because that's how you spent your life with them. So that's what you miss, right?
Right. Yeah. In the story, Our Town, when the girl comes back and sees her family, when they're talking about spending one more day. And she was trying to decide what day did she want. And she was told, pick an ordinary day.
Right.
And I can see why. I mean, that's what you're missing.
Right. You never did go bull riding or all those things. So why all of a sudden would you want to do that now? I mean, that would be like a new day.
Right.
Yeah.
I was the grandchild in the story where my dad got his own dad back. And so he and his father were, he was this child of divorce. As an adult, he was his relationship with his mom was stronger, and he and his dad became alienated. And I'm so moved by your story. It's just reminding me, because I was really angry with my dad and my sisters and I were, because he got his dad back. And we were really mad at him because we didn't get our dad's time and attention, and this was so important to him to have these last few years. You know, he took my grandfather in, he lived in our house the last few years, and he got to say all the things he wanted to say. But for me, it's hard. Oh my gosh, I'm so emotional. I just
put the wine down.
Seriously.
Give it to me.
Here, take it.
Yeah, you'll start crying.
But it's so, you know, it's such a moving moment, that getting that time back, and I'm thinking, well, gosh, I was the really bratty daughter in that story with those, like, but
it stays with you.
you know that.
But you know what, when you said what you did about missing your mother's death, I mean it's so interesting to me, because that without having ever met you, that story is exactly the parallel in here. I mean, what haunts him. And I just heard it in your voice as you were missing that thing. And it haunts him to the point that his life kind of comes unraveled, was the one time that he could have stayed and been there had he known.
Sure.
He goes and chases his father again
Yeah.
in an old-timers game, which is a little bit of my sports background coming into it. But I've always felt that there's nothing kind of more pathetic than an old-timers game, and on one level.
That
I mean,
came
it's honoring. Yeah. A lot of old-timers will be mad at me, maybe. But I mean, it's honoring them, yes. But I mean, guys who are 60 years old putting on a baseball outfit again, and they're fat and they're slow, and they run out into the field and wave at the fans like as if they could still play. It's a little sad, you know. You don't really want to see your heroes like that. And here he gets this chance because his father finagled it. He doesn't deserve to play in an all-star game. He was only in the major leagues for a week or something like that. But he chases after him because his father calls, and he ends up missing this key moment. And just like you said, you know, I wasn't there when you died, and I should have been there. And there's a point when he's at the funeral, when he's putting dirt on her coffin, and he's saying to himself, you know, a real son would have been there for his mother. A real son wouldn't have gone running up. A real son, you know, and a real son would take the shovel and say, "No, I'm not burying my mother. I refuse. You know, I'm not going to put this dirt on her coffin." But he didn't feel like a real son anymore. He felt like a fraud, like an imposter. And I meet so many people who miss that moment of death, and they don't forgive themselves. But at the end of the book, not to give away too much of it, but you've all read it. Right. She addresses that with him. And really, I think everybody, if we could have those moments back with people who did die, they would all say the same thing, you know.
I think so.
I didn't need you there for that moment. I needed you there for all the other moments, you know. Yeah, you know. And that's what I was trying to get across.
Well, the daughter's comment at the grave, right?
Yeah.
That was really what did it, right? After he shoveled the dirt on, and his daughter said, "I'm sorry you couldn't be there, Dad."
Yeah.
That was.